All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for being here today. My name is Josh Brown. I'm the Senior Associate Director of Student Employment Programs here at the University of Iowa in our Pomerantz Career Center. So excited to talk to you today about student employment at the University of Iowa, how it works, and then hopefully educate you a little bit on some of the resources that we provide your student employees to make sure that they're getting the most out of their experience and helping them develop professionally as well. I think one of the things when your students get here, one of the things that I always like to ask if a student talks to me about working on campus, I always ask them, so why are you considering working on campus? I typically know the answer, but I like to ask them anyways. And almost all the time, they're going to say money, of course, right? And that's a big part of what our goals are and what we try to do here at Iowa is if a student wants a job and wants to make money, we want to have jobs available for any student that wants one. And we do have a really wide and kind of diverse array of jobs on campus at this point. I'll get into some of the numbers in a little bit. But right now, I checked this morning, we have about 290, I think 292 departments that hire at least one student employee. So one of the things when students ask me, like, what can I do on campus? My answer is about anything you could think of. So a lot of different options there for your students. So one of the things too, we know that students when they come in, if they're looking to work, money's going to be their number one priority. We also know that they're going to get a lot more from that experience than just making money. And that's a big part of why we've created some student employment programs here over the years. And yeah, as I said in the chat, if you have any questions, there's a Q&A function. I'll try to answer those. Otherwise, I'll have some time at the end of the presentation today as well. So the student employment programs, we have had what's called UI STEP, Student to Employee Professional. I've been doing that program for about 13 years now. I really consider this a four-step professional development approach to student employment on campus. So three of those and those four numbers are specifically related to your students, and one of them is kind of indirectly related, which is some resources for our supervisors on campus. To put it in perspective, we have over 1,500 faculty and staff, myself included, that have at least one student employee working for them. So fairly big operation when it comes to that. Um, I'll get to that work study question in a little bit. And then, so probably the next slide. So, starting with the professional development approach, number one there, one big thing, because we have such a big operation and so many supervisors and departments that hire students, everyone's going to kind of have their unique way everyone will have their unique way to train students on job specifics. So, one of the things we created this past December, so this is going to be the very first incoming group of first year students in the fall that will take this. If they are a new student employee, they will do a new student employee compliance training. So think of this like kind of an enhanced orientation that you might have on your own job. So the big thing that we do there is just try to make sure that there's consistent messaging to our student employees no matter where they work. So we talk a lot about the impact of their student employment, why future employers that they might be going, like if they're going for an internship or full-time job, why they might care that they're working on campus. We help them set SMART goals for their student employment experience and give them tips, really give them a lot of tips on how to get into the workplace and be successful. So excited to get that student employment compliance training done for the entire population. So if your student works on campus, that's where they'll start. The next two are specific resources related to our campus employees. And we basically they're available to everyone, but we only advertise these to our student employees on campus. So one of them is our number two there is our student employment for career success course. So it's a full semester, 2 credit hour course. It's an elective course that students can take at any point during their academic career here at Iowa. The one way that I describe this course, it's really a one-step one-step shop, one-stop shop for any professional development needs that a student might have. So we talk about their student employment. We help them identify skills that they're learning. One of the big things we do is talk to them about, okay, you're learning all this stuff in your classes. How's that going to translate into workplace success? How do those skills transfer over? And vice, we have that conversation, vice versa as well from work to the classroom. So really trying to help them make that connection. And then ultimately, we try to help them sell those experiences. So what I mean by selling is selling them to employers. You're going to do that on your resume. So we talk about that. Cover letters, LinkedIn profiles. We talk about job searching. We talk about interview skills. So students have the ability uh, to um, to take that course at any point. I've had anywhere from first year freshman to grad level students take that course. So they can take that at any point. That class is actually a great question. That class is going to be an in-person class. So we do quite a few professional development activities. We'll do mock interviews and stuff like that. So it's a smaller course. I'll usually have about 30 students in it. So a lot of involvement and discussion there if they can. And we know it's not realistic for every student to take that course. So we offer what's called UI Step workforce development sessions. So the best way to think about this is if your employer trains you and then they send you to somebody else, another trainer, another department, to a conference, something like that, to get additional training, and they pay you for it. That's kind of what that is. Your student will get a job on campus. The employer will sign them up for the workforce development session. There's 4 of these in the evenings each semester. Students only have to attend one. They're about an hour and a half in length. So the student will attend that. We talk a lot about some of the stuff we talk about in the class. What are they learning? Why is it important for their future? But then a big part of that session is making sure that students understand top workplace behaviors. So we talk a lot about the difference between meeting and exceeding expectations in the workplace. So that is something that is discussed probably for about 45 minutes in that session. So we really want to get them into really good workplace habits in their part-time job and help get them ready for whatever is next. So if that's an internship, if that's a full-time job opportunity, that's definitely our focus area there. I think one of the biggest things we do in the Career Center is we talk to the employers that hire University of Iowa students, and we're consistently asking them, what are you looking for to help them be more ready for your opportunities? And a big thing that they talk about is having additional resources to help them understand the skills that make them career ready. So that's a lot of what our discussion is like in those sessions. We love to come back our employers to come back to on-campus recruit or come to our career fairs and tell us that they love University of Iowa students and how prepared they are for those opportunities. Like we want, I'm going to joke about this, but we want them to really dominate the other interns from Iowa State and Nebraska that are also working for them, right? So like we want them to be competitive. We want them to be able to perform and be ready to perform better than some of their counterparts. The fourth one on the list, again, indirectly related to your students, but at the same time, uh, I'm going to guess if you think about your own career, your supervisor has a big influence on whether you like the job and how much you get out of that job. So we provide a lot of resources to help create a better environment for your students by giving them better supervision. So that Supervisor in Today's Student Series is 8 workshops each semester. All of them are specifically related to supervising the student population a little bit better. Like we know student workers, they're going to be a student first. The job is never going to be their number one priority. So we want our supervisors to be able to navigate that from a workplace culture standpoint, from creating good training methods, that type of thing. I have a really impressive professional development intern right now, and she's done a presentation the last couple semesters to faculty and staff on supervising Generation Z in the workplace, for example. So all those workshops are specifically created to make our supervisors a little bit better for your student workers. And this is where I'll touch on some of the numbers, and I'll get into that work study. Um, for a work study job, so there's about 9,000, just put in perspective, about 9,000 students who work on campus any given year. The vast majority of them, as you can see, are part-time, with about usually around 1,000 to 1,200 students have work study. How they search for a job, whether they have work study or not, they still have to apply to a job and get the job just like any other student would. So if it's definitely part of the FAFSA, so it's a need-based award. So if that's awarded on your financial aid, they're eligible for that. There's a few specific perks to work study. It's somewhat confusing, but there's a few specific perks. It's definitely even if you don't have work study, you can still get a job on campus. Out of those 290 plus departments I talked about earlier, I can count on one hand how many require work study. Usually most of our employers are going, a vast majority of our employers are going to hire either or. But if your student has work study, it's a nice tiebreaker for sure because an employer gets some benefit from hiring your students. There's a few other kind of tax breaks and stuff for our work study students as well. So a couple other benefits there too. If your student is work study or part-time, they're still going to apply for jobs. They're not going to be assigned a job or anything like that. So they'll apply for the job like they would any job. That third bullet here, I say jobs are from 1 to 20 hours a week. I really want to stress that one. The big thing I could tell you there is we're going to be very flexible with their hours. 20 hours is actually a state of Iowa law. They cannot average more than 20 hours per week. One of the things that we do every single year is we want to make sure our student workers are doing well academically. It's great that they have a job and can make money and gain experience, but we still need them to be having a great academic experience. That's got to be the priority. So we've been able to accomplish that. I think over the last 20 plus years, every year we look at it, and our GPAs for our student workers has been better every single year without a single outlier, right? Direct deposit, great question. I'll get to that, but the direct deposit is created once they get the job. They'll work that out with HR to set up direct deposit to whatever their bank account is. So 20 hours is a max. We also know that's a max because yes, our students perform better academically, but at 20-hour range, it gets really difficult to keep up with academics. So that limit is there. I think a big thing, especially for first year students, they're kind of apprehensive sometimes to work right away. Start slow if they are concerned about that. If they want to work 1 day a week, they can. Typically, what will happen when a student applies to a job, we will ask them how many hours that they're looking to work on campus. They'll tell us. Then oftentimes we're going to ask, okay, let's see your class schedule, and then we make it work within those hours, if that makes sense. Best thing too about working on campus is we know when the busy times are. So we can cut their hours or minimize those hours when they have midterms, when they have finals, that type of thing. Right. The biggest thing too, I would tell you, like we're able to do short shifts. So a lot of students will be like, well, I have class every day. I can't work. Well, you have a chance to work. You're not going to have a full day of classes, right? Like a lot of times you might have had seen a student schedule where they have one class on like a Friday or something like that, right? Even if they have multiple classes, a lot of times we'll work within that range. So I had a student a couple of years ago who wanted to work about 10 to 12 hours. We took a look at her class schedule. She had Fridays completely open. So I was like, hey, if you want 10 to 12 hours, why don't we do half of them on Friday and then figure the rest out? And then she told me that she didn't want to work on Fridays. And I said, well, that's great. I don't want to work on Fridays either, right? Um, but I was like, okay. So I kind of laughed. I was like, all right, you don't want to work on Fridays, no problem. Well, let's look at your schedule. She had class from 10:30 to 1:45, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I'm like, okay, why don't you come in from 8 to 10, go to class, and then come back from 2 to 4:30. Do that 3 times, boom, there's your hours, right? That's typically how an employer is going to do it. So that flexibility is going to be there to help the students out a little bit. One thing, and the reason I encourage looking for work as early as you can, In the fall, there's never going to be more jobs than there is in the fall semester, right? Especially the beginning of the fall semester. Most employers are going to want to hire at the beginning of the academic year. We will increase the job postings again at the beginning of the spring, but typically, I would say a rough estimate about two-thirds to three-quarters of the jobs in the spring open that we have in the fall. Another thing I will tell you, there will always be jobs. If your student wants to wait, that's okay. There will always be jobs. They can just be a little less paid, right? So we have a lot of different options, specifically in the fall. Those options dwindle, I would say, by week 3 and week 4. There's still openings available. There always will be. So there's never a time where a student can't find a job. There's just less options, if that makes sense, right? As far as how much they're going to get paid, the average wage is a little over 14. The most frequent wage is 12. The big thing for us at the university is to make sure that we're competitive with the community jobs that are similar. So what I mean by that is, hey, if there's a job on campus and a similar job in the Iowa City community, we're going to pay something competitive, and we've been able to keep up with that over the last few years. The one thing I really like too about the wage stuff on campus is they have the ability in most jobs to get merit increases as they stay a little bit longer. The one of the things we've created in the last couple of years, I call it the ladder of employment. So there's 4 rungs on that ladder. So if it's an entry level job, a student can start. They start as an assistant. They can go to associate, to lead, and then to supervisor. Oftentimes with those promotions, they have the ability to get raises. But I think from a career center standpoint, even more important than that is it looks great on a resume, right? Our employers love to see the fact that a student gets promoted on a job. That typically means they've had success in the workplace and they're a really good worker. So that looks really good. So no matter where your student works on campus, any of those hundreds of departments we have, they have the ability to get promoted and have increases in their pay and show promotions on their resume, right? No matter if they have part-time or work study, they are paid biweekly and they will set up that direct deposit. So I was not going to tell them where to put their money, right? So they've earned the money, so they have the ability uh, to make that decision. So how do they search for jobs? So they search for jobs on Handshake. That's our online job board for students. I think one of the my favorite things about Handshake is your student's going to use it the entire time that they're at Iowa. So we have on-campus employment, we have community jobs, we have internships and full-time jobs nationwide. So when your student gets on the site, all they got to do is filter by the type of job they're looking for, and they will see those postings. Your students also already have access to this site. Okay, so if they want to start looking over the summer, they have the ability to do that. All they have to do to get started with Handshake, and they already have access to this now, complete a professional log on to Hawk ID and password, complete a professional profile. The vast majority of our jobs do require a resume, even if they require no experience. The reason for that is we just want them to do a resume early. The toughest part of our job in the Career Center is when we get students who wait till about a week before they graduate to get help with their resume, right? We want them to get started earlier. I'm going to show you a link at the end of the presentation where we have some resume help on our Career Center site that can really make that easy to set up for your students. Either their first resume or something a little bit more advanced. We have resources for both. When a student wants to work on campus, within 3 days of employment, they need I-9 documentation. So there's a link there on what documents are acceptable. If they have a passport, that's good. If they have just like a driver's license or something, they need a second form. Usually that is a birth certificate or social security card. Unfortunately, it can't be a copy. So that can sometimes scare you to have students taking those really critical life documents, right? But the good thing is they only have to do that once. So they get a job on campus, they get those documents on file. If they get another job on campus, they don't have to keep doing that over and over and over again, right? But they do need that within 3 days of employment. So one of the big things too, I talked about GPA a little bit, but that's one of our biggest goals is to create a supportive environment where students, yes, they're learning skills, they're developing socially, they're hopefully have a support system at work. But I think we want to make sure that whether it's their supervisors or coworkers, we're going to help support them and help them understand what other resources are available on campus. I think when students come here, there's so many resources that we have on campus, but no matter how much we try to teach you before students get here and parents before students get here, it's really hard to remember everything, right? We have a lot of different departments that do a lot of different things. When our students work on campus, they typically, it's not that others don't have access, but when you're involved with the university on a daily basis, our student workers tend to utilize those resources a little bit more. As a supervisor, so I'm a supervisor too, like if I see my student having an issue with something, I can refer her to a certain resource and make sure that she's utilizing those things. So I think that is a big thing that helps our students. We ask our students, workers all the time, like, hey, how's your workplace experience going? How's it impacting your academics? I think the biggest positive answer we get from students is time management and structure, right? Because they're used to that coming into college. So I think a lot of times work can help them feel a little bit more structured. When it's time for school, they go to school. Time for work, they work. Time to study, they study, right? I think one of the big things from a student employment perspective as well, we talk to our big goal at the Career Center is to talk to employers that hire students and what they're looking for. And more than ever, yes, they want academic success, but they also want to see that your student is active in learning outside of the classroom. So can they put that learning from the classroom? Can they put that into action in the workplace? So those things we continue to see are getting more and more important in the college experience. So that resume review, so there's a link right there. We actually have 12 editable resumes on that site based on a student's experience level. So the very first one on there, for instance, is for a student right out of high school. We have the document editable, so they can click on it. Everything is set up and formatted for them. They just have to input their own personal information. This will make their lives a lot easier than clicking on a blank Word document or going to Google and searching for resume templates. I'm going to tell you the first page of Google resume templates, they're all really bad, right? Utilize ours. We could made them specifically to make it easy on your student to create that either the first resume or to improve the one they already have. Information here at this link on some of the programming that I talked about earlier today. And then finally, the first Wednesday of class, we have the Student Employment Job Fair from 11 to 2. It's the first Wednesday that they start with classes. Students tend to like the student job fair because they don't have to dress up to it, right? Like our career fair is a little fancier. A lot of times students will dress up to that. The job fair, they can come in their sweatpants if they really want to. So it's casual. We'll have usually about 30 employers at that event. Students oftentimes can get a job right from that event. We'll do many interviews. A lot of employers really want to hire that first week, so a lot of hiring is getting done at that event. So really good event for your students if they wish to attend. Any questions? So that's all from a content perspective. Is there any questions? I hope I answered. Let's see. When can you start applying for jobs? Awesome. So great last question there. You can apply already. So students can start applying to jobs right away now that they have access to Handshake. So some employers will gather applicants and call them all in August, but some of them will call right away and get that hiring done. That's how I teach them to do it, because if a student applies to a job early, that typically means they want to work. And I want to hire people who want to work. So that's a really good question. And I think something that if a student wants to start applying, they can do that. We're already, I think the last time I checked, we have about 60 student positions posted. That will be about 200 here in about a month, maybe 5 weeks, right? So that'll keep increasing, but they can keep an eye on that anytime. Links in the chat, yes. Let me get those in there. Bear with me 1 second and throw those in the chat. All right, so there's the resume link. And program link. All right. So is there a specific job for work study students? The good thing about work study, if you have work study, they're eligible for every job there is, right? So it's no different than any other campus employee. So they're eligible for any job that's affiliated with the University of Iowa. They can use work study for it. Yeah, so the app is pretty good. The one thing I will tell you, the big thing about the app, and if you're doing it on just a regular computer or desktop, you got to use the filter system. It's great because we have everything on one site, but that also means there's about 30,000 jobs on there. So nobody's going to scroll through that many jobs, right? So like if you're looking for a campus job, it's on-campus employment, internships, full-time jobs. You can sort by everything from location to job function to majors. Just utilizing the sorting, or excuse me, the filter option is going to be huge there. Yeah, you can have interviews through Zoom. A lot of times that's how employers are going to do that over the summer if they conduct interviews in the summer. But the job itself would not start until they get to school. Yeah, so so good question there about proof of work study. So that'll be on MyU Iowa. Okay, so if they ask for work study eligibility, MyU Iowa, you go to your financial aid award, and that's where you'll get that document. Study abroad, we have a specific study abroad office, but that also, so that's what I would look up. And it depends on where you want to study abroad, but I would look up the study abroad office. I would absolutely say if you're eligible for work study, the one thing is even if you don't let them know you have work study, you when they process your appointment to get you to start, it'll automatically post and pop that up for them. But I definitely would mention it because it's a nice benefit for the employer if they hire you as somebody who has work study eligibility. The chat function. All right, let me get those links in the Q&A answer. All right, Susan, I'm going to post that link there. Question about, yeah, I would always reach out. A lot of times they'll wait till it's closer to school starting, but if you can get that paperwork done early, I would tell you that's the best way to go. So I would reach out to HR. The housing and dining grant, Dawn, great question. Um, you don't have to use that. It's a nice benefit. Basically, we need a lot of dining employees, as you can imagine. So there's a really nice incentive for those who work for dining, but they absolutely do not have to do that. Right. As far as switching, just be professional about it. It's like switching any type of job, right? We want our students to be to make sure that they are, treating the job like a professional job, so giving notice, that type of thing. But yeah, students can switch jobs if they're looking for something different, or if they're looking for if they have a promotion opportunity or something within their major. Those things can happen. You can work more than one position. That's a great question. You just can't exceed that 20 hours per week. So the accepting of work studies should all be on the financial aid. So I would talk to financial aid specifically about that. It should be listed on your financial aid award, but you do have to accept it. to make sure that those funds are put into your financial aid award. So I definitely would reach out to financial aid about that. They're the ones that kind of process the work study and make sure that the eligibility is there for students. Really good questions, everyone. Hopefully I answered them. I don't think I missed any. Did anyone else have any other questions? So where do you accept it? You'll accept that on the, should it be able to accept that on the My U Iowa Financial Aid Award page? Any other questions from anybody? All right. Other than that, that is all I have. Okay. Yeah. Is there a job mowing lawns on campus? Absolutely. UI facilities. So facilities hires a lot of students in a variety of different areas. So if you don't have work study, that's fine. If it's not on your financial aid award, it's not a big deal. You can still work on campus. As long as you're professional about it, is it easy to switch jobs? So you can just give notice. They're going to look at your resume. So just like if you were working a job for a semester and then you want an opportunity within your major, you can apply for jobs anywhere else on campus as well. Lifeguard and swim lesson positions, absolutely. We actually have them posted already. So if the student wants to go out, lifeguard, I know was posted last week, and they're consistently in need for lifeguards at the rec center. Anything else from anyone? Good stuff. So Don, good question. I think the big thing when they move in, they need to have a job ready and lined up. So if you're going to move in with those documents, especially if you don't want to have your son keep the documents, I totally would get that. A lot of times we'll tell students, hey, get a job lined up over the summer so that when you move in, you can take your son to the office, hold his hand if you really need to, get the documents on file, and then take them back home with you. But there's just got to be a specific department to show them to, right? So if you work for a career center, right, where I work, we have a specific HR person. They would take the documents and make sure they're on his file. So it's got to be to a specific HR person. The reason is for basically, I've asked about this because I would love for students to just be able to show the document and get it on their files. The problem is each department only has access to certain information. If that makes sense, to make sure that there's privacy. So unfortunately, you can't do that. So once you get a job lined up, they will ask for that document. That's when you will show it. So that takes place through specific HR departments wherever you're hired. All right. So at the Career Center, we don't specifically do that. Anything else? All right, appreciate you all attended today. Welcome to the University of Iowa. We're excited to have students come back. If you're ever around here in the summer, uh, it's a lot more boring when students aren't around. That's for sure. Yep. So that job, if they're posting that job, it'll be on Handshake app. All right. Thank you all. Hope you have a great rest of your day.